Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished guests, on behalf of the panelists, it is my privilege to welcome you to this session and to moderate this discussion on the Gelephu Mindfullness City. The Gelephu Mindfullness City is a royal vision to build a special administrative region in the south-central part of Bhutan to leverage on the economic opportunities that we foresee for the larger South Asian region and really to transform the future potential of our country. It is a bold vision, it is an ambitious vision, it is a vision that is far-sighted and transformative. It is a vision that requires a very strong team, a strong and skillful team, a team that is dedicated and dynamic. Now, in the previous session, we mentioned some of our international partners and shared their views, but I have with me right now some of the GMC leadership team with me. Dr. Lim is the Managing Director of the Health and Education Workstream. HB Lim is the Managing Director looking at the Finance and Wealth Management Workstream. Ben Gao is our legal counsel and leading the legal work streams at the GMC. Mike Kayamori is the CEO of ORO Bank, the official digital bank at the GMC. And of course, Dr. Lotay Tshering, our former Prime Minister and a very key member of the GMC leadership team. I want to start with Dr. Lim. You are a scientist by training and a venture capitalist by profession. You were in the Silicon Valley for the last decade or so before we managed to convince you to work for the GMC. You're also one of the very early members of the GMC team. And so maybe can you share with us what made you come to Bhutan, the work that you're doing right now, and some context around how you've seen the GMC evolve?
Absolutely. Thank you, Rapsel. Your Majesty, distinguished guests, it's a real privilege to be here and to share a little bit about what we're doing. As Rapsel mentioned, I've spent quite a bit of time as an investor, as an executive, on a board director, also as a scientist and a professor of stem cell biology. And I'm trying to bring all of these experiences to bear on this very exciting project that is the Gelephu Mindfullness City. And really, the reason why I was so privileged to be involved is, in a singular way, His Majesty, the person, and his very noble vision for what prosperity should be and can be, right? And so it's really my honor to be able to lend my time and my energy and my experience to this effort. And I think most compellingly, it was the idea that we have the opportunity to build here a city that truly nourishes the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so, in many ways, these are some of the clusters that I'm helping to drive. And in terms of the body, for instance, right, we envision this as a city for holistic health and longevity. This will be a destination where we can scale health span. This should not just be the domain of the ultra-wealthy, but we can do this in two critical paths, right? One is to upgrade the existing public health system by filling in the specialties, upgrading the facilities, talking to the world's experts about bringing the best in the class hospitals and health systems to Gelephu Mindfullness City to set up shop and really upgrade the entire infrastructure, and also even explore other novel methods that we see have worked well, especially as we all have come through successfully in the pandemic, things like virtual hospitals. And also, of course, to this opportunity to scale preventive health, participatory health, predictive health, and really personalized health, right? To realize this dream of systems medicine. And so really we're talking to the top experts all over the world, clinicians, wellness practitioners, and trying to operationalize this. So it's not, we have this strategic vision, but what we really need at this point is to get projects off the ground. And so we're privileged, of course, on the public health side to have many of these ideas, but also certainly we are interested in projects that will bring people to Gelephu to join the movement. But then they want to come because this is the best thing they ever did, right? They're coming here for longevity and health. And so we're designing unique programs that will be one of a kind. For instance, we are interested in a wellness and performance center for high-flying executives and sports athletes, for instance, that they can come here and it's an opportunity for them to rejuvenate, but also then be inspired to perform better, and of course, network at the same time. And so you can see, in a very practical way, this brings together many of the different themes that will help to make this vision a reality. Of course, in addition to that, we are interested in conventional clinics like aesthetics, fertility, holistic skin health, and the like. And we welcome conversations with partners to help us achieve this. And on the mind side of things, right, again, I'm so heartened to hear all the very wise and knowledgeable leaders before us talk about this, Bhutan being really at the precipice and at just the right time, right? As the world is transforming the view of what education can and should be. And it's something that should encompass mindfulness, awareness, and sustainability. And so again here, we are taking two approaches, leveraging and learning from the top institutions and thought leaders all over the world. And so we have been in deep talks now with, for instance, some of the top business schools in Europe, in Australasia, and watch this space. We hope to make some announcements very soon about very concrete programs that we will build in scholarship, in teaching and courses, and in events just like this one. These are knowledge convening, generating activities that will, again, bring people here, but rally them to our cause and establish activity in Gelephu. And so, again, watch this space. I think we are encouraged by the traction that we are getting, and we will build on that in the coming weeks and months. So, of course, skilling is absolutely important. In all of the different domains that we have mentioned, we are very well aware of the need to bridge where we are today and to what the vision looks like. And this includes offering all the appropriate skills that people need, and we are partnering with the top global institutions to map out all of the different skills that we anticipate that will form the pillars of the Gelephu Mindfullness City, and then equip the people of Bhutan with the appropriate skills to form the talent pipeline that help us achieve that. And so, in addition to that, again, there's the visitor approach, where we are trying to bring in people by co-creating with academic partners unique courses and curriculums, for instance, in the area of mindfulness and sustainability, in executive business education and leadership performance, right? And trying to bring them here, experiencing this wonderful natural setting, using that as a resource for place-based learning, and then also incorporating this sort of very deep self-reflection. In addition to that, we are growing our own. We are internationalizing the Royal Academy, and we are looking for partners and investors and donors to help us with that as well. As mentioned earlier, the Royal Academy offers a very unique curriculum in the Bhutan Baccalaureate, internationally recognized, very much about mindful learning and a personalized learning journey that encourages constant reflection, 360 feedback, very high touch, very close mentorship by teachers, and equipping students not just with content, but learning how to learn. And in a nutshell, all of these different things are things that we want to not just capture in specific actionable projects and with partners that we are talking to, and we, of course, welcome more conversations with other interested partners as well, but that we want to scale at a city as well, right? So this will be a city of learning where the place, the built environment will encourage people, inspire people to learn and to keep learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Very inspiring. I think the vision of creating a city where the health and education are at the core of personal and community well-being is very exciting and inspiring. You mentioned quite a list of opportunities in the health and education sector. We have a lot of potential investors and partners and collaborators here in the audience. If you were to make a pitch to them, what would your ask be?
I'd say at this point, we are early enough in our journey that we have a lot of flexibility, and that is a wonderful benefit, right? So we have, of course, concrete ideas that we are already actioning, but we welcome co-creators at this point, because we are also very well aware and humble that we don't know everything. And there's lots of interesting, synergistic ideas that we can come up with together. Please bring your talent, your ideas, your capital. We can create the conditions that will help us both succeed. And so we really welcome all of these different conversations, from scaling health span to new models of education at the city scale, at the school level, at the institutional level, please, come and talk to us, and we'll be happy to co-create together.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. I want to focus now on another critical aspect of the GMC's development, the financial sector. HB, we're very eager to hear about what you have in plan for us in terms of the next generational financial sector and what kind of opportunities are available for both local and global stakeholders at the GMC. So please take over.
Thank you, Rapsel. Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, good afternoon, distinguished guests, welcome. My name is Hobeng Lim, you can call me HB. So as Rapsel mentioned, I'm part of the team that's looking at financial services, building out the regulatory framework for GMC, and also building out the ecosystem, not just across traditional finance, but across fintech and crypto assets or digital assets. I think if there's anything the pandemic has shown us is that, yes, we need the human touch, but much of it can also be done virtually, but complemented by the human touch. So the next frontier of finance is all about things we can do online. So finance is often the engine that powers cities, that powers countries. It's the lubricant that provides money, provides rails for payments. It matches lenders and borrowers. It allows a more efficient allocation of capital. So it plays quite an important role in any country, any city, especially in GMC. So for GMC, our vision is to build a robust financial services sector, really as an engine to support all the other clusters and sectors, healthcare and beyond. And we are going to do this in a way that we think is based on global best practices. When I think about building a legal regulatory framework, I always think about the 3 C's. So the first C is you need clarity. So my colleague Ben will talk a bit more about the legal framework, but on the financial services side, we deliberately chose a financial regulatory framework that is very clear, easy to understand, modular, and most importantly, the law is to be understandable by the average person. Unfortunately, laws are meant to be written for the layman, but the technicality required of laws make it all but unreadable, except to maybe lawyers like my friend Benjamin. So we want to make our laws extremely clear and concise. The second C is co-creation. Dr. Lim mentioned co-creation. We do not want to build the financial sector from an ivory tower. We want to co-create this with all of you. So we will adopt a very consultative approach where we invite partners to come in, tell us your views, tell us what you need, and then we can co-create a regulatory system that is business-friendly, yet robust and safe and sound. And the last C is a customer first. All too often, regulators get a bad rep because if you have any problems, you go to them, you write to them, it's a black box. You don't hear from them for weeks, for months, if not years. So I used to run a financial institution before, so it's very difficult sometimes dealing with regulators. So in GMC, we want to be customer first, meaning that we want to serve you. You are our stakeholders. As financial institutions, digital asset companies, when you come to us, we are there to understand your needs and to help you and respond to your questions. So these 3 C's, I think, are sort of the paradigm for how we think about the financial services sector. As you know, Bhutan is no stranger to digital assets, so we want to build out a place that is not just for traditional finance, but for digital assets, like crypto assets as well. On the traditional finance space, GMC, given its positioning in the middle of so many vibrant regions, home to almost 4 billion people, we want this to be an international financial center that anyone, anywhere in the world can use to serve clients anywhere. So we will focus on sectors like wealth management, fund management, and on the digital asset space, we will work on things like fintech, financial technology, as well as digital assets. I can just share at a high level, we have been experimenting with a new currency for GMC. It's called Tare. So Tare in Bhutanese means treasure. So in finance, it's always very interesting. If you use a food ordering app, you can tell in real time where exactly the rider is. But when you send a remittance, you have no idea where the money is, which correspondent bank it's sitting in, has it even cleared compliance. So the idea for this new currency is to be based on the blockchain. So the blockchain is transparent, so you can see exactly where it is at any point. It's cheaper, and it's more efficient as well. So this new currency Tare will be backed fully by physical gold. So in a way, it's a return, a refresh, but a reinterpretation of the gold standard of the past. But we think we can do it in a slightly different way based on the blockchain where every unit of TER is backed by an immutable weight in gold that cannot be changed. So this imposes strong monetary discipline on the GMC. We cannot be a money printer. We have to be very prudent and disciplined. And let's see where this takes us. With this new currency, hopefully it can improve efficiency in payments and serve the underbanked as well, because if you go through blockchain rails, it's often cheaper and faster. So I invite all of you to be part of this journey as you build out the financial sector in GMC.
Thank you, HB. Very interesting. That's another C, the currency. Can you maybe talk a bit more about TER in terms of its regulatory framework and maybe some of the technology behind it? But I also want to really see what kind of companies you're looking to attract at the GMC within the financial workstream.
Right. So in terms of the regulatory framework, I think it's very important that GMC, from the start, we show that we mean business, meaning that we are business friendly, but also we will not allow any malfeasance or any crime to happen. So we only want to attract the best companies in the financial space, but also the safest and the cleanest companies. Yeah. So these are companies that have very strong internal controls, strong compliance, at the same time are willing to embrace what GMC stands for, the values of Bhutan, and yet are at the forefront of innovation. So these are the companies we want. The regulatory framework, as I mentioned, will be based on best standards in a way that is easy to understand, yet not overly onerous for firms to comply with. Yeah. And most of all, we want to be, finance has to be, as I said, has to be an engine to support other industries, other services, never just an end in itself. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I want to do a bit more of a deep dive into the technological integration. I'll come back to you, Ben. I want to go to Mike right now, the CEO of ORO Bank. There's a lot of excitement in Bhutan and abroad on what the ORO Bank is really about. So Mike, maybe can you share with us what the ORO Bank does and how it will contribute to the digital and financial ecosystem at the GMC?
Yes, thank you, Rapsel. Your Majesty, speakers, distinguished guests, it is my honor and pleasure to share a little bit about ORO Bank. So I think we've all seen the vision, the video. It still gives me goosebumps when I see those. But now, what's there real? Is there something real there? And I'm proud to share with you that ORO Bank is one of the first projects that has launched as part of the GMC initiative. So ORO Bank is a digital bank. It's full digital. It's full reserve. It's also going to embrace full technology with AI. And this is very different from many legacy banks that exist today. It is a little bit embarrassing and humiliating to share in front of the World Bank and many prestigious financial institutions and economists and guests here. But we believe that ORO Bank is truly unique. It's built for global citizens. Yes, it's for GMC. It's for the people of GMC. It's for the companies of GMC. It's for the enablers of GMC. But it's also for innovators, disruptors, entrepreneurs. These are the people who shape the future. GMC is the place for innovation. So it makes absolute sense that one of the first projects for GMC should be a financial utility. I think in 1994, Bill Gates mentioned that banking is necessary, but banks are not. But at the time, it was more about traditional banks not being able to become internet or technology, because this was 1994, before Windows 95 came out. But since then, every 10 years, there's been a financial crisis, whether if it's the Asia financial crisis or the global financial crisis. I'm not here to criticize the financial ecosystem, but the banking business model, despite there's mobile banking, internet banking, but the banking business model itself has not really changed. It's a net interest margin business. So you receive deposits from your customers, you give interest back, but then you deploy that deposit either through lending, mortgages, treasuries, you invest in it. And the difference is called net interest margin. And that is the profit of the bank. And that has always been their business model, and that has not changed. But that means when the market is good, when the business is good, banks are hugely profitable. And I know I'm oversimplifying this, right? There's a lot more complexity to the business model. But when the market is bad, when something happens, suddenly there's a crisis. Whether that could be interest rate risk, liquidity risk, there could be many types of risks. And I believe, especially in GMC, where value and mindfulness and spirituality comes first. I'm not saying capitalism is bad, but extreme capitalism is not something we should all strive for. And that is where ORO Bank comes in. We are a full reserve bank. So a full reserve bank means if you deposit $100 with ORO Bank, we keep that $100. If you deposit €100, we keep that €100. We will not lend it out. A bank will keep typically 3 to 5% and then lend out and earn money. We believe, that has been a proven business model, but with risk. So that's why every 10 years there's a crisis. So we believe a bank needs to be safe, secure, and sustainable. Nobody goes to a bank and feel like, okay, I'm going to put my money, and actually they're only going to keep a few percentage and they're going to lend it out. And I don't even know where it's lent out. So you're always at the mercy of the bank. At ORO, we believe the bank should be co-created. The customer, the user, to be your own bank, right? You make your decision. If you want to just park it, you can park it. If you want to earn interest, we have a product for you. If you want to use it for treasuries or payments, we will do that for you. And we want to work with you to co-create key features and functions of the bank. I think we've kind of accepted that it's the bank will say it's our way or the highway. You just park your deposits, and they'll do the KYC. You might get rejected, especially if you're a startup. It's very difficult for a startup to open a bank account, especially with these large traditional banks, because your business model is not proven. You might not be profitable. You might be disruptive. But every defining company starts small. So we believe if you're a global startup, if you aspire for greatness, if you want to make a difference, we are the bank for you. You should absolutely have a local bank. But if you have global customers, global suppliers, you need multiple currencies, multi-currency. If you want to not only be interested in the traditional finance, but if you're interested in the future, where blockchain comes in, digital tokens comes in, NFTs might come in, that is something we believe as ORO Bank, where we bridge the traditional banking and the future of banking. But this can only happen if we have your participation, where we can co-create together, where we can identify features and services that make a real, true difference. So we do have a small booth in the back, so please come and visit us. And because all the participants here today, we're the bank for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yes. Mike, can you speak more about ORO Bank's role in innovation? I want to hear more about some of the products and services that ORO Bank offers at the GMC.
Yeah, so we're still very early. We've launched, but it's a public beta. We believe that there are core table stakes that we still do not have. We only have a full reserve account where we keep 100% of our customers' deposits. I think fairly soon we will be having yield-generating investment products. But obviously, we need to have some programs where it needs to be KYC'd and disclaimers and questionnaires, all the things that does not compromise, where compliance, governance, and all of these things are important. But after an investment yield-generating product, obviously we'll look at card services. We will look at all the elements that a traditional bank has. But then the exciting part is the next stage, right? Where we believe there's an opportunity where we can embrace digital currencies, stable coins. I dare to say DeFi, but many of the new future financial products that will come, that we might not even know today. The beauty is we are not constrained by legacy banking software. A lot of banks still use, mainframe. They might have an internet banking interface on the front, but the reality is the back end is still very much legacy. We don't need like a branch system. We don't need a checking system. We don't need overdraft. None of these hidden, products and systems and charges. We believe that we can start something very new, agile, using the blockchain, bringing transparency, and I think that is very important, right? So I think the important thing is that please, together, let's grow, right? So in the next year or two, it's going to be one of the most exciting period of not only ORO, but how we can contribute to GMC. Because whenever anybody comes in, when they want to deposit money, you need a bank that can serve you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. So much to follow up on, actually, but I want to be mindful of our time. I want to move from financial infrastructure to legal architecture. So Ben, can you maybe tell us about the work that you're doing at the GMC in terms of designing and creating this very robust legal foundation that will govern and support the GMC sectors? Thank you.
Thank you, Repsal, Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished guests. Thank you. This is the part where most people fall asleep, right? Because you talk about law and no one's interested in it. But I think it's the most important part. I think my vision of seeing how we shape the law is that it really underpins. You've heard all the exciting visions, in terms of healthcare, education, in terms of financial regulatory work, in terms of blockchain, right? I think the challenge for us is how do we sort of springboard, right? Bhutan and specifically the GMC, right, into all these areas where we get the best practices of all the different elements that we want, and have a law that is simple, easily understood, commercially friendly, fair, and we have access to justice, right? I think that's the vision and the challenge for us, in shaping the law. So to move things forward, the vision is really to incorporate Singapore law, as you've heard, right, as the primary law that will be anchoring GMC law. So this is what we call phase 1. Where we will be looking, to things like even incorporation of companies, keeping it easy, keeping FDI rules very light. The whole idea is we are open for business in GMC. Come here, we have a good licensing regime. We have robust regime as well, because we will make sure, right, that there's proper KYC. There's sort of good laws that we have in terms of financial regulatory framework as well. And that's why we're not going to embrace everything under Singapore law. We will also, incorporate elements on financial regulatory from other jurisdictions as well. And then there's the beauty, right? That we have the ability to see where we can draw our inspiration from, but also make it something that people will understand, right? Because if I tell you, there's a new Gelephu law, people will be very confused. What is this new law? But if you say, look, it's anchored under Singapore law, right? I say, okay, we do have people who are familiar with Singapore law. It's a common law jurisdiction. People are familiar with it, and many countries are also adopting, in commercial transactions, Singapore law. But the challenge for us, other jurisdictions and have also created special zones where they have adopted other laws as well. But for us, it's not just civil and commercial. I think the message we want to send to everybody is come to Gelephu. It will be an efficient country. It will be a country that values a good, robust legal framework, and more importantly, it will be a safe country. Right, and that's why we will even be incorporating elements, of some criminal laws, on corruption, ensuring that people who come here abide by the laws, because we want responsible citizens. As we talk about mindfulness, I think as we talk about mindfulness is not just a state of an idea, or we want to actually practice that. Right, I think having a strong law at the core will be important. So that's the phase 1. Phase 2, we will also be starting to create a sort of separate courts as well, even the arbitration regime. right? And also the idea is that we will create GMC-specific laws. As we hear from the businesses, as we hear from people working within GMC, how do we harness, right, the ability to get the best of the practices that we want while addressing issues? I mean, at the end of the day, to me, law is something which will regulate aspirations of the society that we are in. Right? It cannot be a sort of a static approach. Law will always change, and that will always change to reflect where we want society to be. So I think that's the challenge. I'm very excited by this, opportunity to be part of a very dynamic team as well. So we'll be happy to hear any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. The Singapore law gives familiarity, of course, to investors. Can you talk about how the legal structure as a special administrative region with independent executive, legislative, and judicial systems will be attractive to investors and partners? Can you just delve a bit more into how it's attractive?
So I think the idea of the GMC authority having executive, legal, sort of legislative and independent judicial powers is very attractive, because at the end of the day, as an investor coming in, that what you deal with is very straightforward, it's very direct. And at the end of the day, we also understand there will be a need for checks and balance, right? And that's where we need to sort of draw a very delicate balance between these. But I think where we start, right, the whole idea is to give you an ecosystem that is very business friendly, right? And we will listen to you as to what you think will be helpful. So, even things to do with taxes, customs, and duties, we'll be releasing guidelines as we come along, right? The whole idea is that it will be flexible, but we will also be able to take in, ideas that people will have. Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. Dr. Lotay, from all of us on stage, I think you know Bhutan the most. In fact, you know Gelephu the best, probably, because you're actually based in Gelephu. You live there full time. Tasho, can you tell us your particular role at the GMC and maybe share with us some of the perspectives of how the GMC will benefit the larger country?
Thank you. Your Majesty, Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, and distinguished guests. In fact, I'm extremely honored to be here with these domain experts today. I'm a practicing surgeon, so let me be very precise. As a human being, end of the day, we all ask one basic question, whether you speak out loud or not. We all ask, at the end of the day, how will we be benefited? How will I be benefited? So on this note, as His Majesty's representative at site, I live in Gelephu. I meet people from different walks of life on a daily basis. And they do ask me the same question. What is the need for us? And then when I meet them, I add one question to them. If you want to know how are you going to be benefited from GMC, then you all must know what you have to do. Because without knowing your responsibility, I don't think you will be ever benefited. So on this note, I talk to the farmers. We know that GMC is a greenfield project where everything that comes on your dining table should be organic. His Majesty the King made it very clear. So we said, you have a huge market that is growing just outside your farm. To the private sector, primarily the construction industry. We do have construction industry back in Gelephu, but they are at a very preliminary stage. But they also want to be benefited. I was telling them that lots of capital works are coming, but those works, the nature and scope of the works are of very, very high international standards, where our construction industry may not be able to reach that standards. But I was telling them that lots of international builders are going to come to Gelephu, that they need to work side by side, learn from them, think of doing the same work as primary contractor after 10, 15 years. And students, teachers, GMC, as we all know, is a greenfield project, a special purpose vehicle that we all have to have the skills. Many of our local leaders come and ask me whether there will be job quotas booked for Bhutanese young youth. I was being very frank with them that unless and until one has the required skills, the nature and kind of 21st century skills, I don't think there'll be any jobs booked just because you're a Bhutanese. So with this, at the same note, I collaborate with current government, Prime Minister, on to what should government be doing to make sure that our growing youth be given the right set of skills, because now the talking on skilling is totally different. The market is not at our doorsteps. The market is actually inside our doorsteps. The industries that 21st century demands is right there in Gelephu. So I think all these when we realized all this ecosystem, then they realized that they needed to benefit from GMC, they have to shoulder their responsibilities. So this is one of my main responsibilities around in Gelephu. Yes. And I'm very happy to be working with all the domain experts. So whatever you design, whatever you envision here, we are there to communicate that to the public in Gelephu. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasho. On the ground, when you're interfacing with the locals in Gelephu, what are their views? What are they saying about GMC and the vision?
My responsibility to understand the vision of His Majesty the King, the role of GMC. I think we all heard what GMC is going to do for us in Bhutan. But sometimes I ask myself and I think out loud with the crowd there to ask ourselves, what if you don't have GMC? What are the risks that we are now faced with? Without GMC, we don't have a good, green, GNH path ahead. So do we have a choice? I really don't think so. So for the sake of time, as a practicing surgeon and that too as a urologist, I find absolute relation between what I do in the OR, especially with kidney transplantation. What I'm doing is preparing the recipient. The recipient, well, for whatever reasons, the native kidney has failed. There is a problem that we need to fix. In order for the donor kidneys to work perfectly fine for the recipient, we must make sure that the recipient is absolutely free of other diseases. We must make sure that all modifiable conditions in that person are modified and augmented. That is exactly what I'm doing now. Because the kidney that we're going to receive has to be good for the recipient. At the same note, the donor. We screen the donor in the most strictest of testing we do on the donor because we want to make absolutely sure that the kidney that we're going to harvest is the best kidney. It must benefit the recipient. At the same time, after harvesting that kidney, we cannot endanger the donor. So in this case, recipient, for now, my current role as a Majestys Representative is Gelephu, but Bhutan is the recipient, and donors are our potential investors, yes, which we heard, the two Lims and Ben. We have to screen through this lens that donors qualify to work with us. So on this note, I feel very fortunate to be working on this because the donors, and we heard the spiritual leaders this morning, their confidence comes from the area that they're going to get, the job environment that they're going to get, because they could now, the spiritual leaders could start something physical, start building their institutions, start preaching their dharma, and then go on a long-term vision to actually pass on their lineage. Same with the donors. How better can you even imagine getting a working environment in this? Because His Majesty the King is very clear, and we all know this. His Majesty the King is actually executing the sovereign prerogative of His Majesty the King and thinking about generations for Bhutan and the world to benefit. So on this note, I would like to thank Your Majesty for making Bhutan relevant to the world in this 21st century. Thank you very much, Your Majesty.
Thank you, Tasho. I think that's very encouraging to hear. A lot of food for thought, but I'm noticing that some of our audience are also looking for actual food now. So I want to be very mindful of our time. I hope it's been a very informative session. I know it'll spark a lot of conversations, and we look forward to that. But for me personally, and I think for many Bhutanese, this is also a matter of pride and joy to be able to see so many thought leaders, so many business leaders, so many old friends and new friends of Bhutan gathered here, converged here today. I think we're all here connected by a powerful vision, inspired by a small country unlocking very big opportunities, and with the whole country and people behind it, making sure that it will succeed. It will succeed not only because of the people behind it, but because fundamentally the GMC is built on a foundation of trust between king and people. And this is a call to action, not just to be caretakers of our past, but to be builders of our future. This is what this session is about. This is what the Bhutan Innovation Forum is doing, and this is what the Gelephu Mindfullness City will achieve. So with that, thank you for joining, and do join us on the journey to the Gelephu Mindfullness City. Thank you.